Is that a leaf? Are you a leaf?
If there's one character from the Bluey series that always brings us a lot of fun, it's definitely Bingo. But have you noticed that since the beginning of the series, there have been several hints that the little pup will follow in her father's footsteps? Especially in the episode Surprise, the last of the third season, where it's shown that she might even become a renowned archaeologist. Intrigued? Let's explain everything about it now. Bingo the archaeologist. Everyone who watched the Surprise episode could see that on the digital photo frame next to the healer's door, the first photo that appears is an adult version of Bingo in one of the most remote locations in the world, Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui Island. This island is known as the navel of the world for being distant from anywhere else. On this island, there are gigantic statues made by some mysterious civilization that no one knows, but which disappeared without a trace and is still studied by the world's greatest archaeologists. And it was precisely in this place that Bingo visited alone at some point in her adult life, as we can see from the photo shown in the last episode of the third season. So, there are two options. Bingo is a backpacker who started traveling the world and ended up in one of the most isolated places on Earth, or she was on Easter Island for work as a professional archaeologist. And honestly, we believe the latter is true. That's because, since she was little, the Red Healer has always had all the characteristics that a good archaeologist needs. Many people don't know, but archaeology is actually a science, so we can say that Bandit is a kind of history scientist in the best Indiana Jones style, who is also an archaeologist. And curiosity is definitely something we can see that Bingo has plenty of. In fact, this is shown from the first episode of the series, not the first episode of the first season, but rather the first produced episode called The Weekend, which was later released as the 6th overall. In this episode, Bluey's little sister finds a small leaf-shaped insect, and we see that immediately her curiosity is aroused by something that, at that moment, she couldn't understand. We see this happening several times throughout the series, like when Bingo sees an ant carrying a small fruit, or when she sees some insects in the middle of the toy she and Leela are sliding on in the Slide episode, and stop to observe and save the little creatures. This could be one of the big clues that the creator of the Bluey series left throughout the episodes, since prehistoric insects are actually considered major archaeological discoveries. So, in this sense, we can say that Bingo has always been a kind of very curious mini-archaeologist who has a natural vocation to follow in her own father's footsteps in the future, for sure. Another moment when we notice the little pup's adventurous nature is in the Easter episode, where she and her older sister spend the entire episode unraveling clues and putting together pieces to find out where the Easter eggs are hidden, until they finally find out, in true Indiana Jones style, the most famous archaeologist in Hollywood. And since we're talking about archaeology, if you also like history, comment #Bone, which is one of the things archaeologists are most interested in, especially if they are dogs like Bandit. Historical names. Apart from the enormous curiosity that the little pup inherited from her father, we can see that she has a great knowledge of history, even though she is only 4 years old. This becomes very clear through the names she always chooses for herself or for the fictional characters created during playtime. For example, in the episode Relax, when the two sisters are leaving the bathroom, we can hear Bluey calling Bingo Olympia. This is a clear reference to Greek mythology, where the gods lived on Mount Olympus. Similarly, in the Creek episode, the little pup chooses another name for herself, Cassiopeia. This is another reference to a figure from Greek mythology, Queen Cassiopeia, who was the mother of Princess Andromeda, who was saved by the hero Perseus. And, besides, in the Surprise episode, the first imaginary child of the 4 that Bingo has in the game is named Copernicus, which is also another historical reference to the scientist Nicholas Copernicus, who was responsible for creating the theory that actually the sun is at the center of the solar system, and not the Earth as previously thought. Seriously, a 4-year-old doesn't just come up with the name Copernicus out of thin air. She probably already heard the story of this ancient scientist and ended up naming her little puppy after him in playtime. All these creations of Bingo are historical references and indicate that probably the pup's path is connected to something that involves exactly that, just like an archaeologist does, similar to Bandit. In the Born Yesterday episode, we can see that Bandit's curious side is still very strong, even as an adult, since he admires the leaf and its small details even after the game is over. This proves that Daddy Healer and Bingo are really very similar, since, as we mentioned, she really loves to see how the world works, through insects, and at the same time loves to use historical and mythological names. To a large extent, this is certainly due to the fact that the little pup grew up in a house simply filled with archaeological artifacts, as we can see in her father's office. There, it's possible to find several cool things that every child would love to have the chance to see, such as prehistoric bones, ancient stones, and masks from civilizations that no longer exist. All this certainly accompanied the little Bingo's mind for many years, and as she is very curious, her interest in everything related to archaeology surely grew more and more, until she decides to take the same course at the university that Bandit took years before. Besides, we can see in the Curry Quest episode that indeed the little pup has always been very attached to her father, as she believes that 6 weeks is a period of time that is almost forever. And we can really see that even the father himself believes that the youngest resembles him much more on the inside, despite Bluey physically resembling Bandit. This becomes clear especially in the mini Bluey episode, which even makes Bluey a little sad to realize. In fact, Bingo herself feels much more the departure of her father, as we can also see in the Curry Quest episode in the airport scene, when the two say goodbye, and how happy she is when Bandit returns home, going to greet him at the airport, which makes it clear that there is indeed a greater natural affinity between the two, even though Bandit loves both daughters equally. And we love all our subscribers equally too! So if you want to feel a little more loved, click right now on this button down here and join our team. Bingo in the future. Everyone knows that in Bluey we have some moments where we see both past and future moments of the characters, and in one of them, we kind of follow what Bingo's life will be like as she grows up. When we see how the Little Red Healer and Leela become best friends, we also see that their friendship will last a lifetime and they will always study together. We can see that after leaving kindergarten, they will go to high school together and will even win an award for a project that they will do together at the science fair. And we also see them even further in the future together with diplomas in their hands. And, unlike in several countries, in Australia, the only time students receive diploma scrolls and wear graduation caps is when they have completed some higher education course. So, we can deduce that this image shows that Leela and Bingo graduated in the same year from the same college. We just don't know if it was in the same course. This would perfectly match the fact that Bingo is an archaeologist, since to practice this profession, a bachelor's degree is required. Moreover, we can also notice that the fur on the little pup's belly becomes yellowish as she grows up, just like Bandit's belly color. Being another common point between father and youngest daughter, making it clear that they don't just have similar appearances and similar personalities, but similar professional vocations. Inspiration. The most interesting thing about all this is that actually the creator of the series, Joe Brumm, chose Bluey's father's profession as a way to honor his own brother, Adam Brumm, who is actually a renowned Australian archaeologist. He was even responsible for discoveries of bones that may be from humans who lived thousands of years ago, which is exactly the same thing Bandit does in the mini episode, where he shows the bone of the oldest dog to walk on Earth, and at the same time can't resist his canine instinct and ends up biting the bone himself in the end. But there is a very interesting point in all of this. If we consider that much of what the series creator puts into Bluey, such as personality and temperament, are mirrored in himself, we can say that the same would apply to his brother and Bingo. Thus, just as his brother is an archaeologist, Bingo, who is the sister of the series' protagonist, would also have the same vocation, which would make a lot of sense to me. If this really comes true and becomes a reality, we may see in the near future even some discoveries made by adult Bingo, who may well be a successful professional. Who knows, she might even find archaeological evidence of the existence of fairies. That would definitely be very cool. So, here's a tip for Ludo Studios. If you want to make episodes, or mini episodes, showing Bingo's work and also Bluey's when they are adults, we would love it. And you, would you like to see that too? If you enjoy watching cool videos, it definitely fits in well with us here on the channel. For this reason, we are leaving these videos that are appearing on the screen for you to see and choose to watch right now. Trust me, they're really awesome.